You are being eaten alive. And you are smiling while it happens. You hold the door open. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize for existing in rooms where you belong. You call it kindness. You call it empathy. You call it being a good person. Machiavelli had a different word for it. He called it weakness dressed in virtue's clothing. And the terrifying part? Every single person in your life has already noticed. Your coworkers, your friends, the people you love. They have measured you. They have calculated exactly how far they can push before you push back. And they have learned, through cold, quiet observation, that you never push back. This is not a flaw in your character. This is a strategic catastrophe. You have been operating without a survival manual in a world that runs on power. You were taught to give, to yield, to accommodate. No one told you those were the exact behaviors that turn human beings into targets. Ask yourself this question. When was the last time someone truly respected you for your generosity, versus the last time they simply used it? The silence is your answer. Your niceness is not a virtue. It is a strategic error. And today we are going to perform surgery on it. No anesthesia. No comfort. Just the cold, precise truth about what excessive kindness costs you, and the 7 principles you need to reclaim your power before someone else takes what is left. Here is what you are learning today. Principle 1. Why nice people become prey, the biology of submission. Principle 2. The covert contract trap, and how it is draining your life force. Principle 3. Strategic boundaries, the weapon you were told never to pick up. Principle 4. Controlled scarcity, why less of you creates more respect. Principle 5. The power of selective generosity, giving like a king, not a servant. Principle 6. Shadow integration, weaponizing the darkness you keep suppressing. Principle 7. The final repositioning, how to be loved and feared at the same time. Stay until the end. Because the final principle is the one that will permanently alter how people treat you, starting tomorrow morning. Let us begin. Principle 1. Why nice people become prey. Nature does not reward kindness. Nature rewards strength. Go watch a pack of wolves. Watch a lion pride. Watch any animal hierarchy built over millions of years of brutal selection. You know what you never see. The most generous animal at the top. You see the most strategically dominant one. And humans, no matter how many centuries of civilization you stack on top, are still animals reading dominant signals 24 hours a day. Here is what happens neurologically when you are chronically nice. Your constant accommodation signals submission. Submission signals low social rank. Low social rank triggers a primitive response in the brains of everyone around you. This person is safe to exploit. It is not malicious. It is not even conscious. It is ancient hardware running modern software, and you are getting crushed by the mismatch. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." People misread that line. They think it is about cruelty. It is not. It is about calibration. It is about understanding that love without respect is just dependency, and dependency without leverage makes you a tool. You are currently a tool. Here is your tactical correction. Starting now, in every room you enter, run a single diagnostic. Who here has stopped considering my reactions? That person has classified you as prey. Your job is to reclassify yourself. Not with aggression. With presence. Stop filling every silence. Stop explaining your decisions to people who did not ask. Stop softening your no into a maybe. The wolf does not apologize for its teeth. Neither should you. But here is the deeper problem. It is not just that people take advantage of your niceness. It is that you invited them to. And you did it through one of the most psychologically devastating patterns in human behavior. I am calling it the covert contract, and it is running your life right now. Principle 2. The covert contract trap. The deal nobody agreed to. You have a secret agreement with almost everyone in your life. The terms are simple. You give endlessly. You sacrifice without complaint. You swallow frustration. You perform loyalty, patience, and generosity like a religious devotion. And in return, you expect people to eventually see it, to reward it, to love you fiercely because of how much you have given. Nobody signed that contract. You wrote it alone in your own mind, and then felt betrayed when people refused to honor terms they never agreed to. This is what psychologists call a covert contract, an unspoken transaction you constructed unilaterally, where your good behavior is a down payment on reciprocity that will never arrive. And the longer it goes unpaid, the more resentment builds. The more you give to try to finally earn what you are owed. The more the other person senses your desperation, which drops your value further, which makes them less likely to give you what you want. Do you see the trap? You are caught in an escalating spiral of unacknowledged sacrifice, and you blame them. But here is the confrontational truth. You created this architecture. You built the prison. You handed them the key without telling them you were locked inside. Robert Greene, channeling centuries of power philosophy, put it precisely, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. What he was really saying, relationships built on emotional debt are not relationships. They are traps with two victims. Here is your surgical correction. Audit every relationship where you feel chronically undervalued. Not to explode it. Not to punish anyone. Simply to identify where your invisible contracts are operating. Tear them up. Every single one. Stop giving to collect. Give only what you would give if you expected nothing in return. And anything beyond that, put a price on it. Not in money. In stated expectation. In direct language. In the radical honesty of saying, I need this in return. Watch who flinches. Watch who respects you more. Now you know why you are being exploited and how you engineered it. But knowing is not enough. You need a weapon. And the weapon has been inside you this entire time. You were just trained to believe it was a character flaw. Up next, strategic boundaries. Principle 3, strategic boundaries. The weapon you were told never to use. You were taught that boundaries are selfish. Count to 3. Think about who taught you that. Now ask yourself, what did they gain from you having no limits? Boundaries are not walls. Walls are defensive, static, fearful. Boundaries are operating parameters. They are the terms under which you are willing to engage. Every powerful entity in history, every empire, every corporation, every dominant individual, runs on explicit operating parameters. They define what is acceptable. They enforce consequences for violations. They do not negotiate their core terms. You, however, are running without terms. Open source. Free to access. No firewall. No cost of entry. And you wonder why everyone walks through you like an unlocked door. Machiavelli understood this with geometric clarity. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. You have been neither. You have been a golden retriever, loyal, eager, forgiving, perpetually wagging. Lovable. But never formidable. Here is your tactical protocol. Write down 3 areas of your life where you currently have no enforced limits. Your time. Your emotional availability. Your professional output beyond your compensation. Now, for each one, define a single non-negotiable parameter. Not a preference. Not a request. A line. Something that, when crossed, produces a consequence you will actually execute. The critical element is enforcement. Boundaries without consequences are suggestions. And people who have been eating your suggestions for years will not suddenly treat them as law. Enforce once. Cleanly. Without apology. Without lengthy explanation. Watch what recalibrates. If this is already hitting different, drop a like right now. It helps the algorithm push this to people who desperately need it. Keep watching. But here is a nuance most dark psychology channels miss. The problem is not just that you have no limits. It is that you are everywhere. Constantly available. Instantly responsive. Fully present for everyone who calls. And that abundance is destroying your value. Next, controlled scarcity. Principle 4, controlled scarcity. Why less of you creates more respect. What is rare is valued. What is abundant is ignored. This is not a philosophical opinion. It is basic economics. Supply and demand operates in human relationships with the same merciless precision it operates in commodity markets. When you are infinitely available, when you respond immediately, when you cancel your plans, When you rearrange your priorities at the first request, you signal that your time and energy have no cost. Zero-cost resources get used casually. They get taken for granted. They get wasted. You are currently a zero-cost resource. Think about the people in your life you have always found slightly magnetic. The ones who seem effortlessly respected. There is a pattern. They are not always there. They are selective about who receives their time. They do not perform eagerness. They move at their own pace. And the result is a peculiar psychological phenomenon. People pursue them. People value what little they give precisely because it is little. This is information asymmetry deployed as social strategy. They know their value. They do not broadcast it frantically. They let scarcity communicate it. Machiavelli's advisor Gratian wrote, and this is surgical, never open your door to the least of evils, for other and greater ones invariably creep in after it. Every concession you make immediately, every yes before the question is even finished, opens that door. Here is your protocol. Introduce deliberate friction into your accessibility. Do not respond to every message within minutes. Do not accept every invitation. Do not attend every gathering out of obligation. Schedule time for yourself as immovably as you would schedule a business meeting. Not because you are punishing anyone, because you are establishing your market value. People want what they have to wait for. Make them wait. Now, I am not telling you to stop giving. Generosity is still a power tool. But how you give is everything. The servant gives constantly and earns contempt. The king gives rarely and earns devotion. Principle 5 shows you the difference. Principle 5, selective generosity. Giving like a king, not a servant. Here is the paradox at the center of this entire video. You should not stop being generous. Generosity is one of the most powerful forces in human social dynamics. But you have been deploying it wrong, and it has inverted its own effect. The servant gives everything to everyone always. The servant's generosity communicates desperation. It communicates that approval is required for survival. It signals that the gift is not freely given. It is paid ransom to avoid abandonment. The king gives strategically. The king's generosity is memorable because it is rare. It signals absolute confidence. I have so much that I can afford to give. It signals choice. I selected you for this. It creates profound psychological impact because the recipient understands on a level below language that they received something genuinely scarce. Ask yourself this question. When you last gave generously, was it from abundance? Or was it from fear of what would happen if you did not? That question is the entire battlefield. Machiavelli wrote, generosity exercised in ways that do not bring you the reputation for it harms you. In other words, giving that goes unrecognized, unvalued, or taken for granted is not generosity. It is a tax on your weakness. Here is your tactical shift. Give less. Give better. When you give with intention and make sure it lands. Give to people who have demonstrated they honor what they receive. Refuse to give to those who have shown they consume your offerings without acknowledgement. And when you give, own it. Do not minimize it. Do not say, it's nothing. If it cost you something, let it be known that it cost you something. Hyenas take from the generous and move on. Lions only receive tribute from those they respect. Stop feeding hyenas. Subscribe right now if you have never heard this framing before. Every week, this channel releases content that the mainstream self-help world is too afraid to say out loud. Now we are entering the territory that most creators are afraid to touch. Because the next principle requires you to look at the part of yourself you have been suppressing your entire life, and realize it is not your enemy. It is your most powerful weapon. We are talking about shadow integration. Principle 6, shadow integration. Weaponizing the darkness you keep suppressing. You are not naturally, completely, unconditionally nice. No one is. And anyone who claims otherwise is lying, primarily to themselves. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the totality of everything you have rejected, suppressed, or hidden about yourself in order to be acceptable. Your anger. Your ambition without apology. Your willingness to say no, to compete, to dominate in contexts where domination is earned. Your capacity for coldness when coldness is strategically correct. You did not eliminate these things. You buried them. And buried things do not disappear. They fester. They leak out as passive aggression, as resentment, as the vicious internal monologue that runs while you are smiling at someone who disrespects you, as the sudden explosive overreaction that blindsides people because they never saw it building. Your shadow is not your villain. Your shadow is your undeployed arsenal. The fox and the lion live inside every human being. Jung knew it. Machiavelli knew it. The most powerful individuals in history, Marcus Aurelius, Napoleon, Lincoln, all mastered the integration of their full self. They were warm when warmth served strategy. They were cold when coldness served strategy. They did not operate from a single, fixed emotional mode. They operated from conscious choice. Machiavelli framed it with precision. A man who is used to acting in one way never changes. He must come to ruin when the times, in changing, no longer are in harmony with his ways. Your single fixed mode, perpetual accommodation, is coming into ruin. Here is your integration protocol. Identify one situation in your life right now where you are suppressing a legitimate response out of fear of conflict. Not manufactured aggression. A legitimate response. Anger at a real violation. Ambition in a real competition. Coldness towards someone who has earned it. Give yourself explicit permission to access that response. Rehearse it. Then, when the moment arrives, deploy it. Surgically. Proportionally. Completely without apology. Watch what happens to your internal landscape. Watch what happens to how others orient to you. The part of you they told you to hide is the part they were most afraid of. We have rebuilt your operating system from the ground up. Now comes the final repositioning, the master synthesis that ties every principle into a single strategic identity. Because the goal was never to become cold or cruel. The goal was to become someone who is loved and feared at the same time. The rarest and most powerful position in any human environment. Principle 7. The final repositioning. Loved and feared, the rarest human position. Machiavelli's most misunderstood insight was not that you should be feared instead of loved. It was the qualifier, if you cannot be both. He was not prescribing cruelty as default. He was identifying the highest strategic position available to a human being, the state where people genuinely care for you and hold you in a degree of awe that prevents casual exploitation. Where your warmth is valued because your coldness is also known to exist. Where your generosity lands as a gift because your limits are also known to be real. This is not manipulation. This is wholeness operating strategically. You have spent your life optimizing for love and sacrificing fear. You made yourself so safe, so predictable, so infinitely available that the love you receive is more like comfort than respect. And comfort, without respect, is the relationship people have with furniture. You are not furniture. Here is the final repositioning protocol. Step 1. Stop explaining yourself to people who have not earned the explanation. Let your decisions stand without justification. Confidence needs no defense. Step 2. Introduce unpredictability in strategic doses. Say no when people expect yes. Surprise people with a boundary in a context where they assumed there was none. Not chaos. Calculated variation. Step 3. Make your anger visible, once, cleanly, under control. Let people see that there is a line, and that crossing it produces a real response. Not a wounded response. Not an explosive response. A precise and proportional consequence. This single event will restructure how every person who witnesses it relates to you for years afterward. Step 4. Withdraw your warmth temporarily from anyone who has repeatedly tested your limits. Not punishment. Calibration. Let them feel the difference between your presence and your absence. The contrast will teach them what 1,000 words never could. Step 5. Never reclaim niceness as your identity. Reclaim power as your identity. From power you can choose kindness. And chosen kindness from someone of demonstrated strength is the most valuable thing one human being can offer another. This is the repositioning. Not from nice to cruel. From powerless to sovereign. Let me give you the full picture one more time. You entered this video being consumed by your own generosity. Eaten by covert contracts you wrote alone. Defined by boundaries you never enforced. Depleted by a scarcity you never manufactured. Weakened by shadow material you never integrated. and operating from a single emotional frequency that every predator in your environment had already mapped and was already using. That was your reality 30 minutes ago. Here is the strategic framework you are leaving with. Nice people become prey because submission signals low value to ancient social hardware. The covert contract trap drains your life force because you are collecting on agreements nobody else signed. Strategic boundaries are not cruelty, they are operating parameters that define your value. Controlled scarcity makes your presence felt because what is rare is treated as precious. Selective generosity transforms your giving from ransom into power. Shadow integration ends the passive-aggressive cycle and makes you whole. And the final repositioning moves you from furniture in other people's lives to a force they respect, desire, and think twice before crossing. Now hear the consequence of inaction. If you leave this video and return to your previous patterns, if you let the discomfort of this information fade into comfortable forgetting, the exact trajectory continues. The people around you continue their calculations. The hyenas continue feeding. The covert contracts continue producing resentment that slowly corrodes every relationship you value. The shadow continues leaking sideways in ways that confuse and alienate the people you love most. And 5 years from now, you will find yourself in the same rooms, surrounded by people who have grown stronger while you stayed the same, wondering why respect feels so impossibly far away. You do not have 5 years of wrong decisions left to absorb. Make the decision now. If this video rewired something in you, subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for yourself. Because this channel is building a library of strategic psychological frameworks that the mainstream is structurally incapable of delivering. New video every week. Every one built to make you harder to manipulate, harder to exploit, and impossible to ignore. Share this with one person, just one, who is currently being consumed by their own excessive generosity. You know exactly who they are. You thought of them 3 minutes into this video. And right now in the comments below. Write sovereign. Not to perform it. To mark this moment as the exact point where you chose to stop being prey. Where you decided that your strength was not something to suppress, but something to deploy with precision, with strategy, and with the cold, clear confidence of someone who has finally read the real rules of the game. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to create tyrants. He wrote it to create people who could no longer be ruled against their own interests. That was always the point. Now you have it.